Hello YouTube, my name is Jack and welcome to a tier list. There's been a lot of hype recently about demons, specifically for my channel. A lot of people have found my channel recently from all the demon content that we've been putting out, and the recent video that we did about my competitive demon list, which has a 75% win rate. If you haven't seen that, go check the box in the top corner right now. But today, thank you to this lovely person who suggested that I do a bit of a tier list or give my thoughts on the different units within the Demons Codex. So obviously today I'm going to be doing Nurgle demons and I'm going to combine them with Undivided as well, but in future I will be doing Khorne, Slaanesh and also Tzeentch as well. So starting off, we have Rotigus. Where does Rotigus go? S tier. Rotigus is amazing. He's the hardest unit basically in the whole force except for the Grand and Clean one to kill. He gives +1 damage essentially to your whole army. He has a great flamer. His movement doesn't matter because you can teleport him anywhere. He halves OC of models, and also he halves the movement of units nearby him as well. He has so many utilities, and he's the cheapest greater demon in the entire codex. He's S tier. If you don't have him, you must have him. Grand and Clean one. I'm going to put him at B tier. Grand and Clean one is a B tier because without the enhancement, he doesn't really do a lot of damage. His abilities for reducing toughness and 6 Feel No Pain are okay. They buff your army a little bit, and they also synergize well with other forces other than Nurgle demons quite well. So that makes him a bit more usable in any kind of list. However, without the enhancement, he's B tier. He doesn't really deal a lot of damage, and he doesn't put that presence on the board that is scary. But with the enhancement, he would be S tier. The enhancement, which the only reason you'd actually ever take the enhancement is if you have a Grand and Clean one. With the enhancement, he's S tier. He is unbelievably hard to shift. And he's one of the best greater demons in the entire book. He's unreal. Sit him in the middle of the board and have a great time. Let's do all the characters. We have the Bile Piper. I'm going to put the Bile Piper at D tier. I don't think that he's the best character. I think, in fact, he's the worst character. He really doesn't deal any damage, he has no shooting abilities, and his abilities for increasing movement of your units when they already teleport or they can make a charge out of Deep Strike are mediocre at best. And he does force battle shock tests, but it's to things that aren't monsters and vehicles, and high-level players can generally play around this. It's a bit of a 50-50 roll anyway, and then even if that does happen, most of the time it won't matter because someone will just kill you. Or they'll one-shot the entire unit, and you're paying 55 points, or however many points he is at the moment, 60, to get a character for just their abilities, which you never use. Scrivener. He's going to go one above at C tier. Scrivener is okay. He's a fairly cheap character. He gives sustained hits to your Plaguebearers, which can synergize really well with the rest of the force and deal a fair bit of damage. And also he makes your Plaguebearer unit OC 32. This is really annoying for your opponents when you can deep strike a string of them 3 inches away and you can screen the entire board, and also they're OC 3 each. So you can take objectives from people, you can do cleanse, you can get capture enemy outpost. It's really annoying. So I think that he has some play in some lists and you should watch out for him for sure. Next is the Poxbringer. I put him at B tier. Poxbringer at B tier is the best of these 3 little characters because he forces Battle Shock at -1. This synergizes really well with the Change Caster on foot, who forces Battle Shock tests, or the Skull Cannon to force Battle Shock on anything. You can really reduce the chances of someone passing their Battle Shock, which then synergizes with Draft of Terror, the stratagem for rerolling all wounds. It actually does work quite well. Not only that, but he's the best in combat of those 3, and can synergize really well with the rest of your army for dealing some damage in melee. He also is the only one with a 5 Feel No Pain, which means that often he is the last one standing against a massive wave of attacks, and you can then use him in the next turn for something like Cleanse. Next we have Epidemius. Epidemius is S tier. Epidemius gives you CP for your army. He also is an absolute beatstick in melee, like a mini demon prince, and also he gives your unit 4+ invulnerable saves. 4+ invulnerable saves you wouldn't think are too good, but they really make a difference, especially in the shooting phase when you can couple that with rerolling saves of 1. He makes that unit nigh unkillable. They are just so resilient, and alongside a Grand and Clean one for 6 Feel No Pain, they absolutely rip through the middle of the board. It doesn't matter about their speed, they can just hold objectives, they're OC 2 each, you can keep resurrecting them with the Shadow. They are a pain to deal with, and Epidemius is a beast. Slimx I'm going to put at C tier. Slimx has some really good abilities that can be absolutely game-changing, but they're really hard to use. And also he's 120 points. For that price, he is fairly resilient, especially with a 3-up armor save that you can use in cover, so you can have 3-up saves against AP1 weapons, really handy. However, He doesn't deal a huge amount of damage in melee, and also he has no shooting weapons, and he's really slow. The buffs that he gives to beasts when he joins them are mediocre at best, and if you're looking for a unit that is relatively resilient, I'd say that these are fun, but hard to use. They're a C tier because on the random 1 in 5 game that they actually do really well and pop off, then good for them, but it's still a 1 in 5. Plaguebearers, B tier. They're middle of the road. They're not so bad, but they're not so good. They're mediocre for their price, a little bit on the expensive side. They don't really deal any damage, and they're good at holding objectives. You have to buff them with characters to get any use out of them and the rest of the army, so you really rely on your synergies, and that means that when your army is susceptible to getting one shot by certain things in the enemy force, which happens a lot, if you lose something like a buffing unit for the Plaguebearers, they become useless, and if you get one shot, then you can't heal your Plaguebearers, which happens quite a fair bit unless you're running Epidemius in that unit. Nurglings. Nurglings are A tier. They are really, really good. They have two main uses. One is for actions, and you can use them at anywhere in the middle of the board, in the enemy's deployment zone, wherever you want. They have deep strike and infiltrate, so they are really, really versatile. And also you can put them behind something like a great and clean one if you know that you're versing an army that is melee dependent, like Space Wolves or World Eaters or Orcs, and they will make everything that hits your great and clean one -1 to hit. Really helpful, great synergies, good for actions. Just remember they can't move through walls. Plague drones. S tier. Plague drones, you might not think are S tier, but they are crucial in your list. If you're running a lot of Nurgle Demons, which I normally do, they are essential. If you're not running a lot of Nurgle Demons, I'd put them at C tier. They are a very synergy dependent unit, and they give you reroll wounds on all of your Nurgle Demons. Now this is massive in combat because Nurgle Demons don't generally have a lot of strength. Even the Great and Clean ones are strength 8, but they do have some damage. So rerolling wounds makes them literally twice the output that they would have been before, and this unit is just the way to do it. They're good for actions, they're fast, they're really resilient. For 40 points a model, they're a steal. But they're good for actions. I would never take them in a brick of 6 unless you want to run a bit of a meme. Beasts of Nurgle, I'd put them at C tier. Beasts of Nurgle are okay, especially when you run them with the Slimx. You can also take them just to do actions. Their main limiting factor though is that they have a 5+ invulnerable save, which is just way too low. If they had a 4+ invulnerable, I'd put them at A tier, but they're really easy to kill, they're very susceptible to high volume of fire, and people generally know how to play against them, either mortal wounding them to death with grenades, tank shock, etc., and then just finishing them off with a couple of piddly fire, or with lethal hits or something like that. They're just too susceptible to damage, and I'd put them at C tier for their price. A little bit too expensive at the moment. The feculent nalo, D tier. If I could put it at F tier, I would. It is literally the worst unit in all of Nurgle Demons, and it is horrible. It is way too overcosted, it literally does nothing, and it gives your army cover, which you literally cannot use. So I don't understand its purpose. If it was 35 points, I would take it just to infiltrate it or do some actions or something like that. Deep strike, do an action, I don't know. You could find some use for it if it was dirt cheap, but at the moment, it does literally nothing. So why would you take it? No idea. Now we make it to the undivided units at the end of the video. I'm putting the undivided units in this video because I didn't want to do a video entirely for undivided units, and so I'm going to put them in with the first video, which is Nurgle, and then in the following videos, I'll just have Khorne, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch separately. So, here we go. Demon Prince on foot. I think both Demon Princes belong at C tier. Neither of them are particularly good. They both have mediocre synergies at best and are really overcosted. If they both dropped about 60 points apiece, I'd run them. But at the moment, they are just too slow. I've tried a lot of the Nurgle Demon Prince on foot so that you can give your army stealth and then basically just 3-up invulnerable, save yourself, and fight in the middle of the board. But the amount of damage he does is akin to something like Epidemius, who is only 85 points, and this guy is like 200, and Epidemius can live a lot longer because he's not susceptible to getting one shot by something, and also buffs your unit as well. This guy is just a little bit too expensive. If they came down in price, I think both Demon Princes would be a bit more usable. Soul Grinder. I'm going to put them at A tier. I think Soul Grinders are really, really good. Their one downside is that they give up too many points. They give up Bring It Down really easily, and in an army where you have to run greater demons that are essential, the Soul Grinders in addition just make your army too susceptible to enemies that want to take fixed objectives against you, and therefore I just don't run them as much. But on their own, they're actually really good.
They're the only unit in your entire army that can tank shock something, and they have a really high strength as well, giving you access to a stratagem for mortal wounds, which is really nice. And they are also fairly good at shooting, depending on the one that you take, whether it's Nurgle, Slimx, maybe Tzeentch. The corn one is useless, don't take it. But the Soul Grinder is quite versatile. It has a lot of different uses. Its one downside is movement around terrain and buildings, because it does not have a base. It's not very good in tournaments. People don't like to see it. And also it's very susceptible to fixed enemy secondaries. Other than that, if you want to run a bunch of Soul Grinders, please be my guest. Last, we come to bellor. Yes, everyone knows, if you've seen my videos before, bellor belongs at F tier. Not even D. If I could put him lower down, I would. He's horrible. He is 350 points, which is at least 100 points too much. I'd put him at 250. Even if we don't want to get ridiculous, 280 is fine. If you compare him to any other army in the game, for example, Tyranids, the Swarmlord is 270 points. He has better abilities than bellor does, and also the Swarmlord is ludicrously overcosted at this point in time. He even has a better shooting weapon and better melee weapons. Bellor does not have anything good. He does a max of 12 damage in the shooting phase, even if his weapons are okay, and then in the fight phase only has 6 attacks and does not reroll anything, does not ignore invulnerable saves, and has swingy amounts of damage as well. He is also only stealth, which a lot of the armies in the game ignore, or can have +1 to hit, or reroll all their hit rolls, and has only a 4+ invulnerable save at 18 wounds. He is just way too easy to kill. He does give your army shadow, and if you are playing on a board where you don't have any terrain, for example beginner games or games with your mates, then he's really good. I'd say take him, especially if you're versing gun lines. However, in a competitive setting on a board with loads of terrain, he has no purpose. In turn 1, people will not be able to see your army anyway. Most of it will be in deep strike or hiding behind a wall. And then in the later stages of the game, you can just stick in an objective that you already control to get shadow, to deep strike out of it. You can rapid ingress a unit if you really want to make some charges, or just make an 8-inch rerollable charge with a unit of Bloodletters or Plaguebearers or whatever you want. He's really not essential for 350 points. He does very little damage in both shooting and melee, and the buffs that he gives your army are useless. Especially the other 2 abilities that he has, other than giving your army Lone Operative 18 inches away. They are essentially useless. If he gave Lone Operative 12 inches away, and also he ignored invulnerable saves in melee, I'd pay 350 points for him. But unless he gets buffed in some way, he's useless. Hopefully you enjoyed my tier list. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. It was a bit of a quick, ranty little video, but people wanted to know what kind of units are good to take. So if you're looking into Demons, and if you are playing specifically Nurgle, this video is for you. Hopefully you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff down below. And if you really enjoyed it, become a member. To be a member is only $4 Australian a month, and it really does help me out a lot. It helps me make more videos for you guys, so please consider becoming a member down below. Stay tuned for the Khorne, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch videos coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. And if you have not yet seen, we do a live stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for different kinds of games, whether that be learning how to play 40k or our really competitive games as well on a Saturday. We also do edited battle reports at this point in time with no apparent schedule. I'm sorry, you'll just get them when you get them. So stay tuned for that, become a member, like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, bye.